In a shocking turn of events, Danielle Colby, the beloved star of American Pickers, collapsed in court after hearing her devastating sentence. The courtroom was filled with tension as the weight of her actions came crashing down, leaving her in a state of disbelief. What led to this heartbreaking moment? In today's video, we dive deep into the events that led to Danielle's court appearance and the shocking aftermath that left everyone stunned. Stay tuned to uncover the details behind this dramatic twist in her life. Before we dive into this shocking story, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think could have led Danielle Colby to collapse in court? Drop your theories in the comments below, and let's get the conversation going. Trust me, you won't want to miss the jaw-dropping details we're about to uncover. Don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all the latest twists and turns in this gripping story. Danielle Colby's life changed forever when Mike Wolfe was sentenced for the murder of Frank Fritz, the famous manager of American Pickers. Initially, Colby was just a reluctant witness for the prosecution, trying to maintain a neutral stance throughout the investigation. However, shocking new evidence pulled her into the heart of the controversy, shaking the world of antique collecting. Federal investigators announced yesterday that the investigation will expand to include Colby after a series of encrypted text messages between her and Wolfe were discovered in the days surrounding Fritz's death. These messages, recovered from a backup server, paint a troubling picture of the possibility that Colby knew more than she had revealed in her testimony. While she has not been charged with any crimes, the pressure on the reality TV star continues to mount as authorities delve deeper into the activities of American Pickers, which seems to grow increasingly sinister. Initially, Colby received strong support from fans due to her emotional testimony in the trial of Wolfe, where she trembled as she described the changes in his behavior. She testified in tears, describing how Mike became obsessed with being the sole face of American Pickers. "Mike became defensive and angry when I asked him about reconciling with Frank," she said. Colby's testimony played a crucial role in securing Wolfe's conviction, highlighting how he grew increasingly controlling and paranoid about the possibility of Fritz returning to television. However, digital forensic experts working for the FBI have uncovered evidence suggesting that Colby may know more than she revealed. According to court documents released this morning, Colby exchanged over 200 messages with Wolfe in the week leading up to Fritz's death. One particularly damning message was sent just hours before Fritz was found unresponsive. "He's alone right now. No one is scheduled to check on him until tomorrow. The window is closing." Wolfe's response was simple: "Handled. Delete this topic." These revelations have shocked fans, who once regarded Colby as one of the few authentic characters on the show. Colby's attorney, Margaret Wilson, issued a statement this morning denying any wrongdoing. Ms. Colby has fully cooperated with authorities from the beginning of this case. The messages in question have been completely taken out of context and do not show any knowledge or involvement in criminal activity. The investigation into Colby's involvement began when investigators reviewed security footage from Fritz's neighborhood, which clearly showed Wolfe's vehicle arriving at Fritz's home the night he died. Analysis of the footage revealed a passenger in the car who remained inside when Wolfe entered the house. Facial recognition software could not reach a definitive conclusion, but there were signs suggesting the passenger might have been Colby. When asked about being at Fritz's house the night he died, Colby denied it. However, as the investigation deepened, suspicions grew. Financial records revealed that Colby received a $175,000 transfer from one of Wolf's shell companies 2 days after Fritz's death. The payment was labeled as a business consulting fee, but investigators began to question the connection between this transaction and Fritz's death. These developments have only fueled the growing questions about the truth behind the case, with Colby continuing to defend herself. No evidence has been found of any legitimate consulting work, but Colby went on to purchase property in Puerto Rico, where she has spent more time in recent weeks, shortly after receiving the payment from Wolf. Prosecutors are now investigating whether the payment was a form of silencing or support for her in the case. The relationship between Colby and Wolf appears to be much more complicated than the professional friendship portrayed on television. Former crew members have come forward, describing tense private conversations between the two. A production assistant, who requested to remain anonymous, recounted witnessing a heated argument between Colby and Wolf about Fritz in the months leading up to his departure from the show. She told Mike that Frank was becoming a burden and that the show would be better without him, the assistant recalled. When I walked in, they both went silent and acted like nothing had happened. These arguments have only fueled further suspicions about the relationship between Colby and Wolf. One of Fritz's recently discovered journal entries in a separate storage unit has been shocking. In entries written just weeks before his death, Fritz expressed increasing paranoia about both Wolf and Colby. "D and M always whisper when I'm around," Fritz wrote. "I've caught them rummaging through my meds several times, and they say they're just making sure I take my medicine properly. Something's not right. I don't trust either of them anymore." These journal entries directly contradict Colby's statements during Wolf's trial, where she claimed that Fritz trusted her completely and often confided in her about his deteriorating relationship with Wolf. Prosecutors are now reviewing Colby's testimony for potential perjury, as many entries in Fritz's journal suggest he viewed Colby as a close ally of Wolf's, conspiring against him. All this information has only deepened the suspicions about her true role in Fritz's death. History Channel, shocked by the scandal surrounding Wolf's conviction, issued a statement distancing itself from Colby. "We have suspended all professional relationships with Ms. Colby until the investigation concludes. The network has committed to fully cooperating with authorities to uncover the truth behind these tragic events."
Colby, originally hired to manage Wolf's antique store, quickly became a fan favorite and standout on the show. After Fritz's departure, she took on a larger role, often joining Wolf on the treasure hunting trips. Investigators are now examining whether her expanded role and compensation are connected to her involvement in the conspiracy against Fritz.
Colby's former friends have expressed shock at these allegations. "This isn't the Danielle I thought I knew," Aaron Murphy, who worked alongside Colby at Antique Archaeology for many years, shared. But looking back, there were times when she and Mike were intensely focused on private conversations, and she became increasingly secretive about certain aspects of the business, as if there were parts of her life that she kept completely to herself. Colby's public image has always been that of a strong, independent woman who maintained her identity in the male-dominated world of antique collecting. She balanced her role on American Pickers with burlesque costume design and various other creative endeavors. This multifaceted personality made her relatable to fans, who saw her as genuine in an industry often criticized for its staged drama. However, the investigation has uncovered suspicious activities within the operations of American Pickers. This goes beyond what viewers saw on television. Financial records show that Colby managed several offshore accounts, where profits from particularly valuable items were redirected, likely to evade taxes. These accounts were set up under shell companies such as Vintage Solutions LLC and Rusty Gold Enterprises. They received millions of dollars in deposits over the years, with withdrawals often coinciding with major purchases by both Colby and Wolf. Forensic accountants working with the FBI have traced approximately $3.2 million flowing through these accounts in the 5 years leading up to Fritz's death. What particularly piques the investigators' interest is a series of withdrawals, totaling $450,000 in the months leading up to Fritz's death. This money has not been accounted for in any legitimate business expenses. When asked about these accounts during Wolf's trial, Colby claimed she knew very little about the program's financial operations, a statement that contradicts newly discovered documents bearing her signature as the authorized account manager. Legal experts following the case have stated that Colby could face charges ranging from complicity to murder, obstruction of justice, and financial crimes, depending on what the expanded investigation reveals. Former federal prosecutor James Harrington, who has been monitoring the case, pointed out that the text messages alone create serious legal risks for Colby. If prosecutors can prove that she knew what Wolf was planning and provided any support or failed to report it, she could face significant prison time. The fallout from these allegations has extended beyond the legal realm, with many of Colby's business ventures experiencing immediate impact. Her online vintage clothing store has seen a sharp decline in orders, and several of her burlesque appearances have been canceled. Her social media accounts, once filled with vintage fashion and behind-the-scenes glimpses of her life, have remained silent since the new allegations surfaced. Perhaps most notably, Wolf's reaction to the expanded investigation, which now includes Colby, has drawn attention. When informed during a prison interview that she was now under close surveillance, witnesses described him smiling for the first time since his conviction. He is said to have remarked, "She knows everything. Ask her about the storage in Davenport. Ask her what we found in Frank's journal." Prison officials immediately ended the interview. Fritz's sister, Lisa, who had hardly appeared in public throughout the trial, made a brief statement through her attorney. "Our family has suspected from the beginning that more than one person was involved in Frank's death. We trust that authorities must uncover the whole truth, no matter how painful it may be. The truth deserves justice, and that means holding everyone accountable for their actions, regardless of their public image." Former crew members have described an increasingly tense and secretive work environment in the years leading up to Fritz's departure and subsequent death. "There was always a sense that there were two versions of the American Pickers team," said former cameraman Jason Miller. "There was the treasure hunting show the audience saw, and then there was a whole other operation happening behind the scenes. Danielle was always at the center of that second world, managing information and controlling who had access to Mike." Miller described witnessing Colby tearing pages from Fritz's personal notebook when he left it unattended during filming. At the time, I didn't think much about it, but looking back, her actions seem much more sinister, Miller shared. Colby explained that she was simply keeping track of the items Fritz was interested in, so they wouldn't bid against each other, but this act only further fueled suspicions about her. This goes beyond what viewers saw on television. Documents recovered from Wolf's office after his arrest revealed that many of the photos featured on the show had been staged. Colby had coordinated with property owners weeks in advance to set up the discoveries. In some cases, valuable items were placed at locations to create a more dramatic television experience. Colby also handled financial arrangements to compensate the property owners for participating in what amounted to a carefully orchestrated setup. While such practices are not uncommon in reality TV, they stand in stark contrast to the spontaneous image that American Pickers had cultivated throughout its run. What's even more troubling are the signs that this deception extended to the on-screen relationships portrayed. Text messages between Colby and Wolf discussing maintaining the storyline and keeping Frank in his place reveal that their on-screen dynamics were carefully managed, benefiting certain individuals at the expense of others. The story behind these conversations sheds light on manipulation, not only on screen, but also in key decisions related to the show. A small Iowa cemetery had never seen so many vehicles lining its narrow gravel paths. TV crews, antique collectors, and curious onlookers gathered behind makeshift barriers as experts prepared to open the grave of Frank Fritz, the beloved American Pickers star who died a year earlier. The relocation of Fritz's grave, reportedly due to local land development, had become a media spectacle. But no one could have predicted what awaited inside, and the discoveries promised to send shockwaves through the antique world and beyond. The decision to relocate Fritz's grave came after the small cemetery was purchased by developers planning to expand a nearby history museum. An ironic twist, as it was the kind of place Fritz himself might have scoured for treasures during his picking days. Fritz's family reluctantly agreed to the move, requesting privacy for what they expected to be a straightforward transfer to a more permanent site at a larger memorial garden 20 meters away. However, when news leaked to local media, interest in the grave relocation exploded far beyond anyone's expectations. Overwhelmed by public interest, local officials eventually allowed limited media presence, with proceeds from filming rights directed to the Crohn's Disease Foundation, honoring the condition Fritz battled throughout his adult life. Though initially hesitant, Fritz's family supported the decision, believing Frank would appreciate the funds aiding others with his illness. His sister Lisa told reporters, "Frank never wanted a fuss, but he always wanted to help people in whatever way he could." On the morning of the relocation, the sky was clear and cool. Cemetery workers had prepared the site the previous day, clearing paths for equipment and setting up a perimeter to allow experts to work unimpeded. Dr. Eleanor Chambers, a respected archaeological conservator with experience handling historical artifacts, was brought in to oversee the process. Her expertise in preserving delicate historical items made her the perfect choice to ensure everything was handled with the utmost care and respect in such circumstances. "Our primary concern is dignity," Dr. Chambers explained to a small group of approved media representatives. "We're handling this with the same protocols we'd use for any historical relocation, with added considerations for the family's wishes." What she didn't mention was the unusual nature of Fritz's burial arrangements, which had been kept confidential at the family's request until now. At exactly 8:30 a.m., the work began. The granite top of the grave was carefully lifted by a small crane, revealing not a traditional coffin, but a specially designed preservation chamber created at the behest of Fritz's longtime co-star, Mike Wolfe. Watching from a respectful distance, Mike explained that Frank had always joked that when he died, he wanted to be surrounded by his favorite finds. After his stroke in 2022, Frank had made arrangements and was very clear about his wishes for this unique setup. The preservation chamber held not only Fritz's body, but also some of the most cherished artifacts he had uncovered in his lifetime. As the conservation team opened the sealed inner chamber, gasps echoed through the silent cemetery. Inside Fritz's coffin, in specially designed compartments, lay a collection of items even his closest friends had never seen. Carefully chosen by Fritz in his final years, these artifacts formed a personal museum of American history. Dr. Eleanor Chambers, the seasoned archaeological conservator, remarked, "In 20 years of conservation work, I've never seen anything like this. It's not just a collection, it's a deeply personal historical narrative." The standout item was a pristine 1934 Indian motorcycle, complete with original paint and documentation tied to its first owner, a Midwestern mail carrier. Fritz had discovered the bike in an Iowa barn in 2019, but never publicly disclosed it. Nearby, an aged wooden box held personal letters from Thomas Edison to a young female inventor, previously unknown to historians. These letters, later verified as authentic by historical document experts, sent shockwaves through academic circles, potentially reshaping parts of America's innovation history. Perhaps the most poignant was a collection of handmade toy cars, each labeled with the name of a child from Iowa Children's Hospital, where Fritz quietly volunteered in his final years. Fritz had led workshops for young patients, helping them craft miniature replicas of classic cars as part of their therapy. He kept one from each child who participated, a private reminder of the connections he forged far from the cameras. The item that caused the greatest stir, however, was a small leather-bound diary in a glass case at the foot of the coffin, embossed with the words, "The Real Finds." Inside, Fritz had documented not the items featured on American Pickers, but the stories of the people behind them. Detailed accounts of families, artisans, and everyday Americans who entrusted their treasures to Fritz. The diary was a testament to his role as an unofficial historian of ordinary American life. Frank didn't just collect things, he preserved stories, Mike Wolfe said, his voice thick with emotion as he carefully turned the diary's pages. "This book is the real treasure. It's Frank telling us what mattered most to him all along." As news of the discoveries spread beyond the cemetery, social media erupted with reactions. Trending hashtags reflected awe at the collection and a deeper appreciation for Fritz as a person. Antique communities held memorial events, celebrating one of the greatest pickers and the vibrant stories he documented throughout his life. Picking events were organized, with proceeds benefiting historical preservation societies. The History Channel announced a special documentary, Fritz's Final Collection, hosted and narrated by Mike Wolfe. Most significantly, several major museums expressed interest in displaying the collection as a unified whole. The Smithsonian proposed a traveling exhibit titled American Picker, Frank Fritz's personal collection, set to tour small towns and rural communities Fritz visited during his picking career. These items belong together, and they belong to the people Frank connected with, Smithsonian curator Robert Hensley said. It's not just their significant monetary value, but the cultural tapestry they represent collectively. After careful consideration, Fritz's family agreed to the exhibition concept, on the condition that the collection would ultimately reside in a permanent museum in Fritz's hometown. Lisa Fritz explained the family's decision. Frank spent his life bringing forgotten treasures back into the light. Now these pieces can keep telling the stories he cherished so much. Conservation experts worked for 3 days to catalog and carefully remove each item from the preservation chamber, documenting their original positions and any accompanying notes Fritz had included. The process was live-streamed on multiple platforms, with historians providing context and commentary as each new item was revealed. The viewership shattered records for historical content, with audiences tuning in from around the globe. The experience revealed not only historical value, but also a side of Fritz that even longtime fans hadn't fully grasped. The man who spent decades uncovering America's forgotten treasures had, in his final act, made himself one of the greatest collections in history. After the collection was safely removed, the proceedings continued with solemnity. Fritz's coffin was transferred to its new resting place, accompanied by a procession of vintage cars driven by friends and fellow collectors. His new memorial, designed with input from Wolfe and the Fritz family, incorporated elements of American roadside architecture, a fitting tribute to a man who spent his life traveling back roads in search of history. In the weeks following the relocation, attendance at small historical societies and rural museums surged nationwide. Cultural commentators dubbed it the Fritz effect. People previously uninterested in preservation began exploring their own community's stories, inspired by Fritz's final collection. What do you think about this shocking turn of events in Danielle Colby's life? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story as jaw-dropping as we did, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all the latest news. We've got more incredible stories coming your way. See you in the next one. Recently, one of the most puzzling car-related cases has drawn significant attention. Richard Rawlings and the Gas Monkey garage crew were shocked when FBI agents raided their Dallas shop. But the story provided by authorities doesn't quite add up. Was it a routine inspection, or was it triggered by an anonymous tip? At precisely 9:13 a.m. on March 14, 2025, the automotive world fell into silence as strange new details emerged surrounding the mysterious FBI raid at Gas Monkey Garage. Just when it seemed the case couldn't take a darker turn, authorities uncovered a chilling secret that shattered any notion of a simple explanation. Reports from investigators at Dallas Morning News confirmed the execution of a search warrant at Richard Rawlings' sprawling $4.2 million garage complex in Dallas, Texas. This legendary location had been the backdrop for countless projects filmed by the Fast and Loud crew over the years. What they found inside was not only unusual but deeply concerning. Rumors began to spread almost immediately, with some sources claiming the FBI was not just there for a routine search. They were following up on a tip about something far more troubling, hidden beneath the shop's floor. Whispers of a sealed room, shattered concrete, and mysterious objects hurriedly removed have set the internet ablaze. As authorities remain silent, speculation runs rampant. FBI agents breached the towering garage door and stepped inside the facility. An eerie stillness enveloped them, the air thick with an inexplicable tension. The garage itself felt wrong, like a place suspended in time. Incongruous details, a toppled locker, faint scratches on the concrete floor, and missing personal items hinted at something unreported. The first bombshell was a hidden area cleverly concealed beneath a section of the factory floor that didn't match the rest. The facility's blueprints made no mention of it. The concrete had been poured differently, creating a nearly invisible seam around a 15x20 FT section. When agents broke through the surface, a hollow space below was revealed. As the agents descended through the breach, their flashlights barely pierced the pitch-black darkness. They stumbled upon a vast chamber, an underground bunker lined with rows of metal crates. Some were corroded and broken, stacked along the walls. Dusty relics spilled out, rusted mechanical parts, yellowed papers, and artifacts that appeared decades old. Among them were intricate car components of unknown origin, some resembling complex racing engines, others like prototype parts with inexplicable designs. One agent recalled cautiously opening a small locked box buried under a pile of oil-soaked rags. Inside were pristine stacks of black and white photographs, each more haunting than the last. Shadowy figures gathered around disassembled cars, individuals in outdated clothing staring into the camera with unsettling intensity. Some photos depicted what appeared to be car auctions at undisclosed locations, while others captured what seemed like clandestine meetings among people with faces deliberately blurred or scratched out. None of the images appeared in any public records. The next discovery left everyone stunned. Amid the debris was an old leather-bound journal, its pages warped by time. It was filled with frantic handwritten notes, some entries smudged beyond recognition, but what they could decipher hinted at something incomprehensible. References to a car collection were described only in fragmented details, with mentions of the original. A name appeared repeatedly, its author, still unidentified, described in chilling terms. Strange sounds emanating from beneath the garage at night and a growing fear of being watched were recounted. Another box revealed a cracked pocket watch, its hands frozen at 2:38 a.m. Beside it was a rusted metal key and a small pouch containing peculiar car badges that matched no known manufacturer. There was also an ornate silver medallion, its surface tarnished. When the agents finally polished it, they uncovered an engraving, Motorwork Works, 1932, with a symbol resembling an eye within a gear. The tension escalated. When the FBI agents uncovered a metal hatch embedded in the concrete wall at the room's far end, it was corroded and sealed with a heavy industrial lock. No handle, and no obvious way to open it. The door appeared far older than the garage itself. As the agents attempted to breach it, the sound of metal striking metal echoed through the chamber like a hollow mechanical groan. The FBI has declined to comment on whether they found anything beyond that door, but some online speculation suggests this underground space might connect to a complex network of tunnels dating back to Prohibition-era Dallas. Rumors grew wilder, with many suspecting the hidden door concealed evidence of a cover-up so vast it could shake the automotive world to its core if exposed. Investigators pressed further, uncovering an adjacent passageway hidden behind a collapsed wall. Inside, bizarre mechanical schematics lined the walls, featuring spirals, patterns, and geometric shapes resembling engine components that matched no known designs. The markings didn't match any recognized manufacturers, but they seemed deliberately designed to resemble something unsettling. The hallway seemed to exhale a faint, rhythmic current of air, carrying a scent that one agent described as old engine oil and metal, with something else lingering. Something felt off near the entrance to the hallway. The agents discovered a collection of vintage car parts, each meticulously cataloged with a strange numbering system. Some still carried a partial VIN number, but the digits didn't match any registered vehicles in the database. Additionally, in a secret room, they uncovered a collection of glass jars filled with unidentified substances, some crystalline, others solid and viscous. Chemical analysis is ongoing, but initial speculation suggests these compounds might be experimental fuel or oil, defying conventional automotive science. Among the jars was a torn piece of paper, rolled up with shaky handwriting. 67 will not be the original. Authorities have maintained a tight-lipped stance, issuing carefully worded, ambiguous statements that only fuel speculation. The garage remains sealed off, guarded day and night. Former employees have reportedly been instructed not to speak with the media, leaving no comments or trace of their knowledge. Neighbors are now more talkative, some recalling unmarked trucks arriving at odd hours, slipping through the gates at night. Others swear they heard engine noises echoing from underground, roaring motors and clanging metal long after the shop had officially closed for the day. The most chilling rumors come from former employees who claim to have ventured near the sealed-off area, only to experience headaches, disorientation, memory lapses, and in some cases, vivid nightmares of cars seemingly operating on their own. The mystery surrounding Gas Monkey Garage not only deepens but is veering into something far darker than anyone imagined. Each new revelation feels more like a warning than a breakthrough. One thing is clear: whatever was beneath that garage floor was never meant to see the light of day. And now that it has, the question is, why did the authorities originally give us a different story? If you missed the earlier reports, here's what the experts initially told us. They claimed that Fast and Loud star Richard Rawlings and the Dallas garage were under investigation for allegedly interfering with Vietnam and possibly violating import laws. The raid was described as part of a multi-agency effort targeting counterfeit auto parts across the Southwest. Richard Rawlings has cooperated with the media, insisting he has nothing to hide and that any irregularities may have been paperwork errors stemming from his rapid acquisition process. He continues to assert his innocence, granting full access to his records and inventory. At first, authorities believed it was a straightforward case, just a large auto business caught up in a broader investigation into black market car parts. But as more details have surfaced, the story has begun to take shape. Police initially reported discovering documents related to several famous vehicle manufacturers, but the maintenance manager claimed that these files were properly maintained and regularly audited. The conflicting accounts have made the story even more complicated. Tests revealed that all of Gas Monkey's parts were genuine. Strangely, 3 other shops investigated in the same operation were quickly cleared of any wrongdoing. However, this is just one of the most concerning discoveries so far. Digital records show that files were systematically deleted from Gas Monkey's servers, but forensic analysis revealed that the data deletion occurred while the building was under FBI control. At that time, the staff had been evacuated, and only federal agents had access to the system. The garage, secure and without unauthorized access, raises the question, who deliberately deleted the records, adding to the confusion. The concrete floor that the agents drilled into was not part of the original search warrant. Something or someone had specifically directed them to that section of the floor. This detail was missing from all the official reports, which only adds to the ambiguity of the case. Senior experts like Dr. Michael Brenner, forensic engineer Marcus Sutton, vehicle authentication specialist Paul Murray, and former ATF investigator have all considered their theories, painting a much more complex picture than the initial story suggested. Dr. Michael Brenner initially leaned towards a connection with organized crime, a pattern consistent with previous cases where legitimate businesses were used as fronts for money laundering activities. But as evidence showed no signs of organized crime involvement, he shifted to a different theory. He pointed out the strange concrete pattern and the possibility that the hidden area existed long before Rawlings owned the building. We might be looking at something historical that was sealed off decades ago and forgotten, Brenner theorized. Marcus Sutton, a leading vehicle authentication expert, questioned the ledger and photos, suggesting that the style of record-keeping was consistent with authentication practices from the 1960s and 1970s. He pointed out that this didn't resemble modern-day fraud, but rather looked like the preservation of historical records for vehicles that someone wanted to keep off the books. Sutton hinted at the possibility that this space may have been used to document ghost cars, vehicles produced outside the official assembly line during Detroit's golden era. Paul Murray, who spent 25 years investigating auto crime for the ATF, emphasized the sophisticated nature of this hidden room. This room wasn't built hastily. I observed the concrete, the ventilation system, the method of document preservation. This was constructed by professionals with the intent to keep it secret indefinitely. Murray went further. If this isn't a modern criminal operation, then what is it preserving and why was it sealed so tightly? He raised the most uncomfortable question. If Rawlings found this space during his renovation years ago, did he intentionally seal it back up? And if so, why keep it a secret? As the agents continued to dig deeper, things got even stranger. The timing of this discovery coincided with one of the most controversial auctions in automotive history. Could the raid on Gas Monkey Garage be covering up something entirely different? The connection to Barrett-Jackson over the years has made the high-end collectible car market the focal point of endless speculation. People believe that some of the most valuable cars sold at prestigious auctions like Barrett-Jackson have questionable origin stories, with VIN numbers that don't quite match up and vehicles with fabricated racing pedigrees. In 2024, before any major scandals could break, several senior vehicle authentication experts retired, changed careers, or mysteriously withdrew from public life. These were personal, unofficial decisions, but many in the automotive industry didn't buy it. Several theories emerged, suggesting that some powerful figures in the car-collecting world were protecting automotive legends. Some even went as far as to claim that certain authenticators didn't just retire, but were silenced to keep certain automotive myths from being exposed as frauds. There is no solid evidence to support these claims, but that hasn't stopped people from digging deeper. Over the years, auction houses have released thousands of documents detailing their verification processes, but the so-called smoking gun has never surfaced. Some records have been sealed or heavily redacted, supposedly to protect the privacy of the consignors. These collectible cars remain shrouded in secrets that have never been publicly revealed. Just days before a major Barrett-Jackson auction featuring several million-dollar cars, some linked to racing legends from the 1960s, the FBI raided Gas Monkey Garage. Many believe that Rawlings had grown tired of the secrets in the collectible car market and was building a case to expose cars with questionable histories. Did Rawlings or his team accidentally stumble upon something that made Gas Monkey a target? If this raid is somehow connected to the upcoming auction, the implications are truly frightening. Rawlings is not just another car builder from TV. He is an influential voice in an industry closely tied to wealthy collectors. If he knows something, or even if he has connections to someone who carried out the raid, things might not be as simple as they appear. One of the biggest fears surrounding the collectible car market is that exposing fraudulent histories could collapse the value of these cars overnight. If Rawlings has evidence that could threaten the eight-figure valuations of these cars, it may have triggered a defensive response from those who own valuable collections. They don't take things lightly. The sudden, unexplained actions of federal agents coincide with major events in the collectible car market, such as businesses being raided and documents disappearing. But the full truth seems to always remain just out of reach. One of the names that has surfaced on collectible car forums is Dennis Collins, a close friend of Rawlings and also a car collector. Collins and Rawlings are not just colleagues, but also very close friends. They started their journey of collecting valuable classic cars together. However, with the recent events, it's possible that their relationship will also face scrutiny, and there may be unexpected revelations. Rawlings has cooperated with the media, insisting that there's nothing to hide and that any irregularities may have been paperwork errors during his rapid acquisition process. However, if Collins has inside information about the questionable cars, this could have a major impact on Rawlings. Rawlings may not be involved, but if he knows something about Collins, it would complicate their relationship even further. Friends, especially those who've known each other before they became famous, sometimes bring secrets that no one else knows. The cars and the stories surrounding them could be the key factor. The high-end collectible car market is always full of endless speculation. cars with fabricated histories or fictional racing pedigrees frequently appear at major auctions. Going back to 1960, one of the most memorable events was the disappearance of 3 Briggs Cunningham Corvettes after participating in the 24 Hours of Le Mans race. These cars became the holy grail for Corvette collectors, and it wasn't until 2012 that one of them was discovered in a warehouse in Florida, hidden under a tarp for many years. This car sent shockwaves through the collecting community when it was sold for millions of dollars. However, the details about the car's history never quite added up. Why was such an important car hidden for so long? And why did previous owners never research its history? Soon after the car was discovered, conflicting claims about its authenticity emerged. Some experts questioned whether this was truly the third Corvette or a part that had been swapped out decades ago. There are conspiracy theories suggesting that some collectors knew the location of the car for years, but kept it secret until market conditions were favorable. Others believe powerful figures in the Corvette world deliberately concealed information about all 3 cars to control their discovery and sale. The story of the Cunningham Corvette proves that automotive history can easily be hidden, manipulated, and its value can change instantly when millions of dollars are at stake. We may just be witnessing history repeating itself with Rawlings and Gas Monkey Garage. Authorities will likely continue to focus on the details, pushing for a resolution in the case report, anything to close the investigation and shift public attention elsewhere. However, the concrete floor can't speak for itself. Theories and speculations won't change what's been discovered, but what we can do is respect transparency. Richard Rawlings, though not your typical TV car builder, has left a huge mark on automotive culture and beyond. Over more than a decade on television, he's experienced more than anyone in the car-building industry could ever dream of. As a legend, Rawlings has always been celebrated on his show, and now, as his career continues to draw attention, people are starting to question whether the secrets behind these race cars and collectibles could change the way we view the automotive world forever. Before we let this story settle into a neat conclusion, let's take a moment to reflect on Rawlings's career, his fame, and his far-reaching influence in the industry. Perhaps Rawlings isn't directly aware of the secrets in the collectible car market, but if he knows something, or if those close to him do, it would unravel an even more complex story about what's truly going on in this industry. From the age of 14, Rawlings began his automotive passion when he bought his first car, a 1974 green Mercury Comet, using savings from his paper route. While most teenagers spent their time on school activities, Rawlings bought, fixed, and sold cars for profit. By the time he graduated high school, he had flipped nearly 20 cars, showcasing an early talent for spotting value where others couldn't. Rawlings' path wasn't always smooth. At the age of 22, he survived a carjacking attempt that left him shot in the shoulder. Instead of stopping, this incident seemed to strengthen his resolve to succeed on his own terms. After time spent as a police officer, firefighter, and paramedic, Rawlings founded Lincoln Press, a printing and advertising company. This business venture provided him with enough capital to pursue his true passion, cars. In 2002, Rawlings founded Gas Monkey Garage. Although the early years were not easy, the shop had neither air conditioning nor running water, his vision remained clear. He traveled to car shows and events across the country, gradually building the Gas Monkey brand. His breakthrough came in 2007 when he and his friend Dennis Collins broke the Cannonball Run record, driving from New York to Los Angeles in 31 hours and 59 minutes. This success attracted media attention, especially from Jay Leno, marking a pivotal moment in Rawlings' career. By 2012, Rawlings' persistent efforts to promote a car restoration show were finally rewarded when the Discovery Channel greenlit Fast and Loud. The show not only became a hit, but also a global phenomenon, airing in over 200 countries. Rawlings' on-screen charisma and business acumen helped Gas Monkey Garage transform from a small shop in Dallas into an international brand, expanding into restaurants, merchandise, and even energy drinks. Rawlings' motto when buying cars is, "You can always buy a $10,000 car for $5,000 if you have it in your pocket." He always carried thousands of dollars with him to close deals on the spot. This philosophy has helped him succeed in both business and television. Additionally, his willingness to take risks on cars that others wouldn't touch, from rusted-out vehicles to rare finds, has helped him build a reputation. Although Fast and Loud was a massive success in 2020, after 8 years and 16 seasons, Rawlings announced his departure from Discovery Channel to seek greater creative control over his future projects. He continued to expand the Gas Monkey empire while developing new content through his own channels. Though always controversial, there's no denying that Rawlings' influence on automotive entertainment and car culture is undeniable. In a bizarre twist, FBI agents are searching a hidden room beneath the floor of Rawlings' garage. Theories are swirling about what could have been buried under all those years of concrete. The biggest question remains: did Richard Rawlings know what was underneath all along? The truth behind what the FBI uncovered may never be fully known. What do you think they actually discovered? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click on the next video that pops up on your screen.